Hello, brothers and sisters. Raven here. Today we get to finally come to an end with their document about Jesus coming in the flesh. Now, I've gone through bits and pieces of this, and I went through the rest of it, read it. Doesn't really tell you much, doesn't give you much, but near the end, there's something I do want to show. But at the same time as I was finishing this, I was also reading another book I got that I've talked about already on a video I put up yesterday on my other channel, Homestead Heritage. It's this one. Saving Marriage, Family, and Community. Now, these may seem like completely different topics, but what I find here later in this document about Jesus in the flesh, and what most of this is about, very connected. Because it all comes down to the same thing. The way they are putting the body as Christ. The way they keep making the body the real focus of their religion, of their beliefs, instead of him. And the way you see that in here, in this book, is very interesting, because what this book does, if you read through it, you're going to find marriage is a small piece. There's not a whole lot. But what it's about when it comes to the marriage is that the marriage has to be set within that community, within Homestead Heritage. And if you're not doing that, they say it won't work, or it's not real, etc. But at the same time, what that is that's promoting more of this body they want you to create. And in that way, it really kind of contradicts the premise of marriage. Marriage is supposed to be mimicking God's relationship with us, with the church, right? Yet we are to be married to one. And Homestead is not polygamous. So they only one. But that doesn't fit well when you're so against the individual. Unless you have this body that is the one. That's why they do this. And that's what you have in this other document as well, because of what it says on page 49. Take a look at this. The quote-unquote good confession then expresses verbally our acknowledgement that Jesus' spirit and truth must rule our lives completely, not according to our own ideas and desires, but according to the will God reveals within and through his intricately ordered kingdom manifested on earth, his body. Note it says, according to the will God reveals, not the will of God, not according to his will, according to this will he has revealed in the leadership of this kingdom they are creating by this body. That's what both of these documents end up being all about. It's showing how everything needs to be away from the individual, and it needs to be all centered on this body, this new group identity that is Jesus in the flesh, according to them. And this body is the only way you come to really know him. Only way you get to follow him. Get to know his will. That's what almost all of their teaching is all about. Why? Because that's what every cult is centered on. Having that family, community, etc. so tightly knit that it has control of everything in your life. Every last thing. Nothing is personal. Nothing is yours. Nothing. It's all theirs. It's all the bodies. How it has such control. If you've ever read this, reading it, you remember there, you've seen these teachings before, you've gone through these teachings. One thing you might want to stop and ask yourself, what's the difference? One thing you have in the body that's very different from marriage is that thing that you have a large number of people. Marriage is always two. Unless you're going to go polygamy, which they haven't, it's always two. So ask yourself, right there, you've got a different kind of relationship when polygamy is frowned on than you do with the church, with the body. Why is that different? Where's the differences? When you find that, stop and think again. How much of what they are talking about in this book, how often when they speak of marriage are they truly speaking of marriage? Once you've done that, then consider, what about Scripture? This book, of all the ones I've read so far, I have probably noticed the least references to Scripture in this of all of the books I've read. This book that is supposed to be about marriage is the one where they have no Scripture to show. There were maybe, at the most, I'd say 5 references that I noticed. Everything else is secular stuff. Everything else is just other people, what they've said. Nothing of Scripture. It is this confusion about the kind of relationship of a husband and wife, the kind of relationship of a community that is causing the issue here. They're trying to make them follow the same pattern, and yet they don't let them. It's a lot of paradoxes and contradictions. And I'd like to know, any former members, current members who watch this, who were married there, are married there, especially if you first got married while there, I really would like to know how much of the marriage, how much of what you did was all about you dedicating yourself to them. You really uniting with them. And how much of what is talked about in this book and other places was actually more about you dedicated to the body. You and your husband, you and your bride dedicated to the body. I'm curious. It's one thing I haven't seen, one thing I've never seen anything about, and I kind of want to know, what exactly do they do at their weddings? Because from everything I see in this book and in this paper here about what the body is, about the way that works, who you are within the body, and what part marriage plays in the body, I would expect far different kinds of vows and far different kinds of messages given in their weddings than others. So I'm kind of curious what the differences are. But remember, when it comes to the metaphors used in Scripture about marriage, we are the bride. He is the groom. The way it's often treated in these, we are the bride. individually, the body is the groom. It's not about uniting you with him, but with them. It's not about that one-on-one relationship that you see in a marriage. It's about that community. So next time we'll get to move on from this document, go into something a little bit more suspicious. But it's going to be interesting. I'll see you then. God bless.